Here you go. Put your mouth on it. No, you gotta put your mouth all the way on it. All the way on it. That's right. That's alright. Put your mouth on it. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. That's very nice. Put your mouth on it. That's it. That's a good boy. That's it. Good boy. Put your mouth on it. That's it. That's a wonderful. Good job, Bubby. Wonderful. There you go. Alright. Alright. That's a good boy. Can you still put your mouth on it again? Put your mouth on it? No, it's still not doing that. That's not right. You put your mouth on it? Put your mouth on it? Put your mouth on it. That's a good boy. Very nice. He said, I know I'm supposed to get the whole thing once I do it right, right? Chap's not a pro at being wormed. I could practice with him and get him better at it and have him stand perfectly still and stick the syringe in his mouth and just do it. But I tend to be careful to not do that with things like this, because if we try for too much perfection, then we can train the personality right out of them. You see how he playfully took a trick that I had taught him, the shaking his head no, and he did it over and over and over again, and I had everything I could do not to laugh when he was doing it. He makes me laugh every single day, at least once a day, and a minute and 36 seconds or whatever it was, or whatever it took to worm him, to me is worth the value of having his character shine through when I'm doing things like that with him. I want to throw a caution out there. I see trainers say to stick your finger in the corner of the horse's mouth, you know, to introduce them to something in their mouth before you put the wormer tube in there. I really don't like that idea. I would suggest against it, because if you have a horse that won't accept a wormer tube in his mouth, he's probably moving his head around and so forth, and that's not some place where you want your finger. When I was first teaching Chap how to accept wormer, I put different things in his mouth to get him used to things in his mouth, and one of the things I went and got was a calf nipple. Goes on the end of a bottle to feed a calf, and you can get narrower ones than this, shorter, longer. This just happened to be the only one I could find for this video. I trained Chap to accept wormer several years ago, so I still have the nipple laying around anywhere, so I ran and grabbed this one to show you. It's flexible. It's not stiff and rigid like the wormer syringe, so when it goes in their mouth, if they accidentally bite down on it, or if they feel it against the inside of their mouth, it's not going to feel hard like the syringe does. So it might be a little easier to get them to accept something like this than the syringe. I got Chap when he was 4 months old. He's a PMU foal out of Manitoba, Canada, and he was a little wild thing when I first got him, and I didn't immediately teach him how to accept wormer. I first gave him pelleted wormer, and then after that, when I started giving him the wormer from the syringe, I just mixed it up with some apples and some grain and put it in his bucket and leave it there, and eventually he'd eat it. And after a while, I stopped giving him grain. I wasn't giving him grain anymore. I was only giving him hay and some vitamin supplements. So I was kind of forced to teach him how to accept a wormer tube. And the way I did that was with what they call targeting in the clicker training world. You get the horse to touch his nose against something, and then you click and you treat him. And I started out using the calf nipple that I showed you, and I got him to touch his nose to it, and then I click and treat him, and then I got him to accept it on the corner of his mouth, and then I click and treat him, and then in his mouth, and then click and treat him, and just worked up to doing that longer and longer, and try not to chase him around with it, trying to get him to come to it. And then I changed over to the wormer syringe and did it with the wormer syringe. If you've never wormed your horse before, you're not really sure what type of worming schedule rotation your horse should be on, go on the internet and do some research and then discuss it with your vet. Make sure you do the research first so that you're not wasting your vet's time. Together with the vet, you should be able to establish a good worming schedule for your horse. Before you actually worm your horse, be sure that you've weighed it recently so that you have an accurate weight. It's very important to have an accurate weight because the dosage is dependent upon the weight of the animal. Be sure that you follow the directions of the specific wormer you're using and not generalize from one to the other. It's very important that you read all the precautions that go along with each wormer. Some wormers have more side effects and more cautions listed than others. There you go. Alright. Alright. That's a good boy. Can you still put your mouth on it again? I'm not doing that. That's not right. You put that on it. Put that on it. Put that on it. That's a good boy.